Welcome, everybody. Welcome to our Sacred Self-Healing Experience training call, Integrity and Integration. Yes, big words, and I see you guys are arriving. Let me turn on your microphones because we are here to share and to discuss things. It's a workshop, it's not a lecture, remember this. So I will be asking you questions. Yes. And just a quick sound check here. Good audio, good video. Thank you so much for this. My name is Jona Bryndis. You all know me. And this workshop is going to help us clarify some of these, the deeper meaning of integrity, layers of integrity, integration process itself, integration cycles, the differences, and as always, a little worksheet. I have received questions up front that I want to cover here as well. Yeah, so all of you have that opportunity to send in your questions if you are, too shy to talk here directly, or if you can't come. Yeah, and if you're waiting for the recording, and I will fit those in with the slides. It's just a few slides that I have prepared for you. So let's get started. Let's get started with what does integrity mean to you? Let's collect some different meanings of integrity, because as we will find out, there are quite a few different meanings that this can have for each and every one of us. So what is how do you understand integrity? And if you understand integrity in different ways, then show us or tell us the different ways that you can understand integrity. Cindy is throwing in here congruence. All right, congruence is a energy lingo word. It's a word that we use to describe what? It's a word that we use to describe how well something is matching up. And this could be anything. This could be anything from walking the talk to you expressing what you truly feel, you being true to yourself, and respectively also in the way you perceive yourself and everybody else. So congruence measures how well something matches up. Yeah, it doesn't necessarily inform us about anything like right or wrong or good or bad or healthy or unhealthy. It just measures how well we are aligned. Yeah, so if simple example, very simple example, if your goal is to earn $1,000 a month and you earn $1,000, then your goal and what you do matches up. There's a good congruence level. If your goal is to earn $1 million a month and you only make $1,000, then there's a gap. And that gap produces all different sorts of things in us: frustration, not believing in ourselves, not even wanting to try anymore, and so forth. So incongruence, or basically the opposite of congruence, when things don't match up right and they're not aligned right, can do quite a few things, and as we will find out, it can compromise our integrity. So yeah, thank you, Cindy, for adding this in here. Congruence is a big part of integrity. So what else? I mean, the word integrity is part of our daily English vocabulary. Yeah, it's currently discussed in the news on many different levels. So there's a lot of different versions of integrity right now. So Julianne is sharing being able to feel and to be able honestly to express and feel how we are feeling within. That too, though, is congruence. What you're describing, Julianne, is congruence. Yeah, how well we can feel it and how well we can express it and how well that matches up. Yeah, so if we don't know how we're feeling and we are expressing ourselves accordingly, whatever we feel at the moment, if we don't know what we're feeling, then we don't really know what congruence is. So it's very important that you understand that congruence is relative. It's relative to a bunch of things, such as belief systems, such as goal systems, such as capabilities, and so forth. Yeah. Integrity is a step above that. But for ourselves, our integrity needs to be observed and trained and worked with on all these different levels. So let's have a look at this. You all are familiar with, looking at yourself on the level of your physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, and energetic reality. That is basically the big sort of fundamental framework of the Sacred Self-Healing course, is that you stop seeing yourself as this big mishmash where, of thoughts and emotions and sensations and feelings and perceptions without knowing what is what, without knowing why you're feeling this way or what is contributing to that, or without, in order to manage your energies more consciously, in order to take charge of your life. So really what the Sacred Self-Healing course introduces to you is breaking it down into chunks. Yeah, you break it down to these different levels, and then you look at what occurs on these different levels. All right, so we can speak of a physical integrity when it comes to ourselves, of an emotional integrity, mental integrity, which includes moral integrity, which can also include social integrity. Then we have a spiritual integrity and we have an energetic integrity. And as further the steps progress, the more they go toward spiritual and energetic integrity, because they're the most complex. So based on the density layers, all right, something that is off, something that is not integrous in the physical, will always affect everything else as well. Yeah, the same with emotional and so forth. So we know that the physical, emotional, mental in and of itself are connected with another, so they always influence another. Our spiritual integrity is separate from our body, mind, from our physical, emotional, mental, and so is our energetic. We're not taking from anyone. We are connected in our own energy, connected to the whole growth and nurture and creation. Okay, so these are aspects of, if I hear this right, Julianne, spiritual integrity. You bringing in your personal beliefs here, right? You saying that not taking from anyone, all right, is a goal of yours, yeah, or like a golden rule or something. You're also saying about yourself, yeah, that you see yourself as connected to everyone, to the whole. We can do a lot of things wrong in the physical and emotional, mental, but we can have really good spiritual values. Yeah, we can have really good sort of integrity on a spiritual level, and yet completely miss out on our physical, behavioral, psychological, social behavior. Yeah, so I just want you guys to become aware that it's not that simple. It's not one big mishmash of right and wrong. It's very complex. Integrity feels like the absoluteness of standing in my own power. All right, that's a very interesting way of expressing that. And I would agree with you, but let's move forward here so that we can all understand better what this might mean in simpler words. All right, so the layers of our integrity, as already mentioned, yeah, they always basically end up in the densest layer, which is the physical. And they often also start there. Why do they start there? Because here in this physical 3D, the physical reality, and with it, then also, of course, the integrity level of this reality determines how we're perceiving everything else. Yeah, we know this. We know that our momentary state determines our perception. If something is wrong with our physical, it will affect your integrity on all levels. Why? Because it will affect our perception on all levels. Let's talk through some examples here. If you are physically sick, who of you has been physically sick in the last year? Not just a tiny little cold, but like sort of a laying down sick, like, you know, really being sick. All right, that's not many, but those of you who raised your hand, would you give us, from your own observation, yeah, from your own subjective observation, would you like to share what it's like when you are physically sick? What does that do to all these different layers of reality? Who wants to share? Yeah? When you're physically sick, or when something in the physical is sick.
Hi, this is Becky.
Hey, Becky.
Hi.
Hey.
Yeah, this was something that came up for me yesterday, actually, because I wasn't, or the past like at least few days, wasn't feeling very well.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I mean, it affected everything. My mental state, like my ability, like to think clearly, to feel myself, um, to feel any kind of spiritual connection. It was just kind of like this
Yeah,
overwhelming
it's
everything.
like
Like it just like all of
constricts
the,
all levels. And it does that.
yeah.
Yeah, it does that. You're a psychologist, Becky? Do you happen to know why that is the case?
Um, yeah, for me it was oh now I went blank.
It has to do
I,
something
I
with our
don't
bodies.
I
It's
don't
it's
like feeling sick.
all right. Well, that's a cognitive dissonance, right? That's
Yeah,
resisting the state that you're in, and we all have that. Nobody likes
yeah.
being sick. Okay, so this is something that, but that's something that we can work on. But there is a very physical, down to earth, simple reason why, when we're physically sick, our ability to feel, to emote, to express, to think, to have a spiritual connection, to have a loving connection with others, even a loving connection with ourselves. Yeah, and why our energy feels really contracted. There's a physiological reason for that. It's because of our nervous system. Yeah,
Oh, yeah. Okay.
our nervous system literally weaves through all these different aspects of ourselves and self-perception. Okay, and as soon as one of these layers of ourselves is completely out of whack, okay, you can pretty much assume that something else is going to have to give as well. All right, when our nervous system goes into that place of like, oh shit, I'm sick. All right, now you got a bunch of stuff going on. Yeah. So
Yeah.
the body gets, you know, basically switches to emergency.
Yes,
It
that's how I
has,
felt, was trying to regulate my nervous system
yeah.
as well. I was having a really
Yes.
hard time with that.
And the reason why the body does that, and it's actually really, really cool, is because it shifts into self-healing mode. It needs all resources to self-heal. I mean, if you know what is happening on a biological level, on a biochemical level when you get sick, you start to really, really appreciate your body, okay? Because there are some things that are truly miraculous, all right? How our body does that is truly amazing, okay? But something's got to give. Yeah, so when we get sick, all energy needs to go into physical survival. And that's the simplest truth about our 3D existence. And that means that areas that weren't really that balanced, that weren't really that integrous, that weren't really that sustainable, they give first. Yeah. So usually the way this goes for every one of us is like we feel like we are getting sick, our mood, you know, our emotions start getting a little out of whack, probably a little low. Yeah, our motivation goes low, our energy goes low, like our energeticness, if you will. Yeah, we start feeling a little low, start seeing things in a more negative way. Then our mind says, oh no, I'm sick, I'm gonna die. And then our emotions go, what? What? We're dying? Oh my God. And then the nervous system, who said so? We're dying? What? And now you got this like endless loop going on. Okay, this happens in everybody, more or less. Yeah, in different intensity levels. It happens in me all the time. I mean, I literally die every single time I am a little sick. All right. Then spiritually, it really depends now what your connection with higher power is. Because if you have, you know, a very solid belief, you know, that there's an afterlife, that there's, you know, that there's a greater reality than just the 3D physical reality, you might be able to catch yourself. You might be able to catch the whole thing with the bigger perspective, you know, and say, okay, if I have to die now, well, then so be it. You know, if there's nothing I can do, you know, I am preparing for the afterlife. And you care for, you know, things such as closure and so forth at that moment, because, you know, you're literally more interested in what comes after than, you know, resisting the fact that your body is dying. Okay. Energetically, when we get sick, it's mostly the problem here is that not just our physical immune system, but also our etheric immune system is really going into overdrive. And that can sometimes lead to us being a little more vulnerable, which means that in those times, all the things that are going on outside of us, yeah, bombardment, news, uncertainty, climate change, you name it, the whole negativity that is out there, you know, regardless of our personal state, but it can hit us harder. Do you guys know what I mean? It, you know, it's just all of a sudden, everything just feels like it's a complete mess. You guys know what I mean, right? Becky, did you have that too?
Yes, that was yesterday. Someone in my apartment was having people over, and I didn't realize it, but something just like I just felt like I was just absorbing everything and anything around me. Um, I needed to not be around people.
Yeah, and that's why it's often, you know, the best to really feel into like, okay, what is it that I need to heal right now? Yeah, instead of resisting the fact that we are sick, yeah, we go into like, okay, I'm sick. All right, so my body's working on overdrive. Okay, it's affecting my nervous system. It's affecting my immune system. It's affecting my ability to think. It's affecting my ability to feel correctly. It's affecting my ability to connect, and it's compromising my etheric immune system. Yeah, these things are facts. Okay, so instead of fighting against it, you can say, okay, what can I do right now? Yeah, to help, to support my body and my whole system to do that. Yeah, so one is, and you've already self-identified, basically. Stop resisting. Okay, if you're sick, you're sick. Okay, if you resist, you just make it take longer. There are some things like Julianne, for instance, brought a social component in when we're sick. All of a sudden, we feel helpless, powerless, independent. We may need other people to do things. Yeah, and that can trigger a whole bunch of other things on top of just the fact that we're sick. Then what you said, Becky, our needs sometimes can't be met when we're sick, right? Our need for silence, our need for, I don't know. I mean, I have terrible habits around being sick because I keep working, all right? And that's something I really, really need to work on, because if I keep working when I'm sick, yeah, and you guys have seen me here the last 2 weeks working, being dead sick, all right? I was sick as a dog the last 2 weeks. You know, all that does, it prolongs the recovery process. Yeah, so that's actually not a very good way of responding to sickness. Yeah. Um, also going into resistance with it. If there are boundary issues with, say, our roommates or family or spouses or whatever, then when we are sick, they will typically become more aware to us. But it wasn't that these things weren't there before. It's just that when we really, really need more space or more time or more silence or whatever it is that we need more of, it's when it becomes aware to us that we are actually not good at communicating how we're feeling. So a lot of times when you have boundary issues, and no matter whether you're physically sick or you're going through something emotionally, or you know, you're doing sort of mental integration or spiritual integration or working on something energetically, it's really important that we understand what we need for sort of optimal conditions to do that. And if we are in a situation with other people, that we communicate this correctly. Cindy is writing here, I feel bombarded when I am sick. I just want to be left completely alone. Yes, it's the same with me. Not everybody is that way. The dependency on others, I do actually rarely experience that because I'm a loner. So if I am sick, I go retreat. Yeah, and this is actually the least of my ideas, to ask other people for help, which I also need to work on. But this a need to be alone typically comes in people who are in life situations, in conditions that are not very conducive for healing and self-healing. In other words, family situations. Yeah. So not to say that family situations are unhealthy. That's not what I said. But they're not necessarily conducive for self-healing if, and that is the big issue here, Cindy, if we have improper boundaries to begin with. Yeah, if we have good boundaries, it should be very easy to communicate that to our family or our, you know, whatever the exposure is that we have, and say, hey guys, I'm sick, I need silence. Okay. Now, if you go to work, or if you do like me, you keep working when you're sick, well, yeah, of course you're going to feel bombarded because you are exposing yourself to other things on top of what you're dealing with. Yeah. And if that's something that you're not fully aware of, yeah, that, say, your job, for example, is very bombarding, when you're sick, you will notice it more. It will bring it out more. It will show you what is not sustainable, what is not healthy. Yeah. So it's normal to feel more bombarded, to feel more sensitive, to be a little more needy and all that. Yeah, it's very, very normal. There's nothing you need to resist about that. Okay. It's all just about in your choice. It's all just about your choice, how you communicate that and if you communicate that. No? If we have stuff such as victimhood going, then, we may like the fact that we never have time or space for ourselves. Yeah. And like more in the sense of ego payoff. Yeah. So then we have to investigate that as well. Yeah. So you guys see this is relatively complex here. Yeah. So what influences our integrity is multifaceted. Now, Melly, you raising your hand, I'm not sure if you wanted to speak or if that was still the raised hand from just a few minutes ago when I asked about who was sick. Okay, it's fine. If you did, I just wanted to let you know that I see your hand. I just lowered your hand. Okay, so when we're physically sick, let's take the next example. When we have emotional issues, when our emotional integrity is compromised. Yeah, let's use the word compromise to stay neutral. Let's say we go through a heartache. Any one of you ever gone through a heartache? Yeah, a heartache of whatever kind. Maybe because you lost someone, maybe somebody broke up with you, or you broke up with someone. Maybe because something got taken away from you. That can also create a heartache, if you will. All right, just one of you. All right, okay. Well, I have gone through many heartaches. I'm currently going through one because one of our cats is missing. So that compromises my emotional integrity because there's a part of my energy that is constantly sort of thinking about that and making me feel sad, making me feel I'm losing something. Then on a mental level, it's giving me all these kind of fear thoughts like, oh my God, and what if she got run over by a car? And what about a coyote ate her? Or what about she's lost and calling for me? You guys know what I'm talking about? Yeah. Spiritually, it challenges me as well because here I am, doing daily prayers, and teaching surrender. And I'm like, how can I surrender that? Like, I'm not going to ask the divine, to bring my cat back. I mean, that's just not an appropriate prayer request, right? So, today actually we had a very good prayer session where we talked about what needs to be removed so that we can see solutions. Yeah. And then energetically, yeah, it's this constant emotional tug on me, that consumes quite a lot of energy. So I'm aware of what it does to me. Yeah, my heart is heavy. And yeah, it requires extra energy for me to maintain my own balance, my own integrity. Okay, mental. When something mentally compromises us. Can you think of any examples where something can sort of mentally, intellectually compromise, or kind of really get you out of whack? I can think of like 1,000 examples. In my daily practice, 90% of all the things that I talk about to people is mental stuff. Worry. Yes, Jillian.
When I am torn between two things back and forth.
Okay, indecision.
Yes.
Okay, what else? Conflicts, they kind of go in hand with this. I mean, indecision in and of itself is a sort of a mental, a bad mental habit, okay? But you know, sometimes there's a reason for that indecision, and that's because we have conflicting goals, for example, yeah? Or we have cognitive dissonances. I have talked about cognitive dissonances a lot. You guys all know what cognitive dissonances are? Raise your hand if you do not know what cognitive dissonances are, then we can do a quick sideline. If you're not sure you know what I mean with cognitive dissonance, okay. All right, then we can just keep going. Catastrophizing, very good. What else? I mean, those are all mental things, right? Polarization. Yeah, polarization, like our own duality, is a huge, big mental problem because it leads to conclusions and assumptions. It's like, okay, if you're not for me, then that must mean you're against me. That is a mental incongruence or in non-integrity. Okay, because right there, yeah, we're assuming something, or we are postulating something that actually isn't true. Yeah, mental control, I mean, mind control, you would have to explain that. Mind control, real quick, Cindy, how you mean this. Yes, gaslighting is a big one. Gaslighting leads to all of the above, to everything that we just mentioned. It leads to incongruence. It leads to cognitive dissonances. It leads to indecision. It leads to violated boundaries. It leads to physical unsustainability. It leads to emotional incongruence. It leads to all of the above. And the word gaslighting, you know, is jargon, it's lingo here in conjunction with narcissism and sort of everything that displays, you know, like sort of basically manipulation. Yeah, so it's the strategic pushing a person into that place that they are not able to see truth, that they are not able to feel integrity, that they are not able to freely think or feel. Black and white thinking, yes, Becky, absolute. Externalizing, very good, Julian. Yes, if I make myself dependent on the outside, what the neighbors think, yeah, what the rest of Australia thinks, or what 60% of the world population thinks. Fantasizing, very good, Julian. That is also something that is non-integrous on a mental level. Yeah, because when we fantasize, yeah, we are basically, it's similar to idealizing. Yeah, it's when we you know, sort of create an alternate reality in which everything is just so good, you know, basically where we don't have to deal with any of these other things. But the reason why this is non-integrous is because it doesn't lead us to a solution. Yeah, so idealizing doesn't lead to a solution. It just makes it harder for us to actually ever find a solution, because nothing is really perfect or ideal. Yeah, and so when we fantasize, we are working with a version of reality that is unobtainable. Wanting a baby or a husband or something like this, yes. Or yeah, and especially the belief behind that, right? So when I talk to people about neediness, because that's a neediness, it's an externalization of our needs, yeah, really what it says is, you know, I need a baby because if I have a baby, then everything else gets resolved. So it's a bit of a mixture sometimes of fantasizing, yeah, of idealizing, and of sort of trying to resolve all in one, or I need a husband. Here also cultural and sociological values can play a role. So, for example, and this is not to be underestimated in this day and age still, you know, many women believe that they need to have a husband. Okay, yeah, some of it is also religious. Yeah, but you understand here, okay? So if you don't have a husband in some cultures, for a woman, you are not allowed to own anything. You're not allowed. I mean, you know, there's countries out there where, as a woman, you can't even drive a car. All right, you're nothing until you are literally married to someone. Yeah. Now it's not that extreme in the Western cultures anymore, but our societies still have these values. One of them would be that your identity changes, your last name changes when you get married. Yeah. Judging, yes, yeah, judging is sort of a pre-stage of being polarized, yeah, or being, you know, sort of having black and white thinking. Yeah, judging always expresses through blaming, yeah, and that has an element of externalizing again. Do you see how these all sort of kind of, they're interwoven, they grab into another? But those are all mental problems. They all have to do with certain assumptions, beliefs, or values. So what about spiritual? Spiritual layers that can lead to us feeling sort of spiritually not integrous. Gets a little tougher here, right? So what would be an example for sort of feeling spiritually non-integrous? Yeah, I can't feel a better word right now. Let me throw ethical into that. Yes, feeling separate or alone, that can be spiritual. It can also be emotional, and it can also be mental, and it can also be physical. So it, being alone has there's different kinds of alone. Yeah, there's the alone in my daily life and not having a companion. There's the alone on a physical level, like, oh, why do I have to always have to do this? And then there is the aloneness in a spiritual sense, that ties into our relationship with higher power. Someone who does not believe in any higher power, like say an atheist who does not believe in any higher power, yeah, who does not believe that there's anything like an afterlife, yeah, that there's anything like a soul or anything like that, can have a huge spiritual crisis when like experiencing their own death, say when you're dying, yeah, of whatever cause, like say of age, because for someone who has that belief system, that spiritual belief system, the physical death then truly is the end of everything. Abandonment by God can be such a trigger, you know, that really brings us sort of, or can throw us into something that kind of that can weave through our whole entire life. You know, this it can come with aspects of not feeling that we deserve, that we are not good enough, that we are intrinsically bad, that we're sinners. You know, things like that. You know, also our relationship with sacrifice, for example, and that also belongs to the spiritual realm, you know, the spiritual integrity realm. But also ethics, guys. Ethics, describe ethics real quick. What does ethic mean for you, or ethical integrity? What does that mean to you? Let me give you a typical question. That's a typical sort of test question. in college, you know, it's that sort of unsolvable problem where, you know, let's say there's something, you know, let's say there is a train that is about to hit a person. A person is crossing the train, a crossover, and the train is about to hit a person. And you can do something about this. You can save that person, okay? But then the train is going to derail and possibly maybe hurt or kill other people. Or in order to secure the safety of all the people on the train, you don't do anything about the person that's on the train tracks, because you realize that if you look at it from a bigger perspective, that it's actually unsafer to do something. I mean, I'm not very good at reciting these things, but you get the point. Yes, justice also has to do with that, Becky. There's a difference between justice and legal justice, between ethical justice and moral justice. Heather is throwing in ethical, what is or not accepted within the boundaries of communicating, cohabitating, interacting with others in a safe and comfortable manner. I like how you're defining this, Heather. You're trying to find something that is really more global, not just sort of expressing your personal opinion or your personal spiritual or ethical, moral beliefs, but you think that something that is, you know, accepted within a certain, say, you know, bubble, yeah, within a certain group of people or society, yeah, what's within those boundaries, within the legal boundaries, say, the boundaries of communication and cohabitating and interacting, yeah, and that offers, you know, safety and you know, safety, comfort, you know, to everybody. So basically something like along the lines like the 10 commandments. Yeah, you should not steal, you should not kill, things like that. Those are rules, yeah, that we have as humans, okay, that allow, for example, cohabitation. They allow coexistence. Okay, if this is something that we agree on, yeah, so the agreement here is very important. Then, you know, that those become our moral and often also legal standards. Yes, and yeah, Julian is throwing in intention. Yeah, so now when it comes to ethics, the problem with ethics is that it still is in the eye of the beholder. Okay, because if you ask 7 billion people, you know, whom would you try to save? The one person crossing the train tracks or the people in the train? Okay, you'll get 50-50, so to speak. Okay, if you are you know, always doing things for the greater good, like Julianne is suggesting here, the consequences are for the greatest good, well, then you have situations like we have been having here collectively for the last year and a half. You have lockdowns, mandates, and so forth. That is sort of the main argumentation, the main line of argumentation of our governments. Still is the question whether that's ethically acceptable, whether it's legally acceptable, whether it's socially acceptable, whether it's spiritually acceptable. Ethics cannot answer that. ethics can only describe, and like Heather correctly identified, it has to do with the agreement within a certain collective. And yes, we can have the intention to do something based on a sort of first principle thinking or based on a sort of greater good idea, but we have to be very, very careful with judgment here. Yes, and Melly, you are spot on here. This is a slightly different aspect, but expecting the spiritual to fix things we need to work out in everyday life. That is more or less the conclusion here of a lot of what we spoke of earlier, namely, well, if it's 3D, okay, and if it's something that has to do with like the food that I put into my mouth, or the people I am surrounding myself with, or my ability to communicate what my boundaries are, or the lack thereof, yeah, with the amount of hours that I sleep, with the amount of water that I drink, yeah, with the kind of relationship that I allow, okay, and with the amount of mentalization and looping that I am investing in. Is that really a problem for higher power? Is that something that we can fix or change or bring into its higher expression through meditation? What do you think? So you're in a toxic relationship. How long do you think you have to meditate to make that go away? Let's say that you don't sleep enough, and that's why your nervous system is on edge. Let's say you don't drink enough water, and that's creating anxiety in you. Let's say your nutrition doesn't have sufficient nutrients in it. Yeah, eating too much processed stuff, not enough nutrients, and your immune system is going down. What about you drinking alcohol every day? Yeah, and your mental capacity is suffering from that. Is that something that we can meditate away or find a spiritual solution for? Hang on, this is too complicated. I need my glasses for this. So Melly is saying, hey, what if all the people on the train had completed their karmic journey and the one on the tracks turns out to save 1 million other lives later on? Yes, exactly. Those kind of choices, the only way to stay integrous, to maintain your integrity with those kind of questions, is to opt out of the choice. It's really not your choice. But you will, I mean, I know myself, I would probably try to do something about that one person simply because that's sort of front and center. That's something that I can see. I would like, you know, whatever it is, you know, try to interfere. Anyway, I couldn't help that. I would yell at that person or, you know, give hand signs or whatever. But yeah, coming back to the question, can we meditate those 3D problems away? No, we can't, Cindy, that's correct. All right, now I need an honest answer from you guys. I need an honest and integrous answer. Who of you has found themselves trying to address something in 3D by seeking some kind of spiritual way to resolve it? or to whatever. Yes. And I actually expected all of you guys to raise your hand because there is a fine line. Because there are some things that, you know, let's say where we have a good intention and we know where we need to change and we're trying it and we keep sort of getting compromised. Yeah, we keep running into resistances. We keep running into all sorts of problems. We're going to go through those here in a moment. You know, that's when we sometimes need support. We need support either from other people or from higher power, it doesn't matter. But then we don't ask for it to go away. We ask for support so that we, because we are the ones doing it in 3D, right? That we are stronger, that we have more courage, that we get better at it. Yeah, whatever it is, refraining from temptations or blah, 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 blah. So yes, so there's a fine, very fine line between all this, and here is basically how you can work this, guys. You know, how you can ask for things, and there's a worksheet that I'm going to introduce here to you that you can print out and that you can really work with. Typically, these worksheets that I produce, they all follow the same mechanism, namely dividing things up into these 5 different layers of perception, and then asking the right questions. So when it comes to 3D physical problems, yeah, things, you know, are physical or 3D physical reality. If we want to find out if something is integrous for us or not, yeah, the first question we need to ask, or questions, is this healthy? Is this sustainable? Is this healthy? Is this sustainable? When it comes to emotional things, that's where we can ask ourselves, is this congruent? Yeah. Is what I'm showing, what I'm expressing, what I'm saying, matching up with how I truly feel? Or a variant of that, is this desirable? Is this the way I want this? Yeah. How do I want it? And then that loops back to the expression. Mental and behavioral, the mental and behavioral layer of integrity can be investigated by asking, is this acceptable? Is this reasonable? Is this appropriate? Yeah. And obviously, like Heather mentioned earlier here, always in conjunction, of course, with, you know, say the society that you're in. Yeah. So in some societies, Southeast Asian countries, it is absolutely not acceptable to say no to somebody's face. The language actually doesn't really have that word no. Okay, yeah, that's a cultural law. Okay, so in that society, it would be really, really bad to say, or rude to say no to someone. Whereas in our society, yeah, many of us have to practice saying no, yeah, to gain more integrity. Okay, now you can stay there, say, well, I mean, okay, is that congruent? No, it definitely isn't, but they wouldn't have as much cognitive dissonances with it or heartbreak over it like we would, because in our societies, and especially in the sort of Germanic and Scandinavian languages, we are trained to say no, okay, when things are not desirable. In fact, we are overtrained to say no, which can then lead sort of to an overall negativity. Everything is no. Yeah, and some of our societies are more yay sayers. You know, it's like yeah, but not really meaning it. Okay, so you get it. It's all fluid. Yeah, so we need to check this with ourselves. We need to investigate this mentally, behaviorally. Is this acceptable? Is this reasonable? Is this appropriate? With these 3 questions here, is this healthy, or 6 questions, is this healthy, it's sustainable regarding the 3D physical? Is this congruent, desirable for the emotional? Is this acceptable or reasonable for the mental and behavioral? You are already knocking out 90% of all problems with integrity. Yes. You already right there, knocking it out. Now, the last one here, the next on the social moral is a bit trickier, because that can vary depending on whom we're with and where we are. Yeah. What is right? And of course, also what's righteous. Yeah. Right now, we are in a social stage here in globally, yeah, and social media has contributed to that, of righteousness. Yeah. Social awareness warrior, social justice warriordom, okay, has created righteousness. And righteousness, guys, is always dualistic. It's always polarizing. Yeah, because it doesn't really give you a lot of space, okay, to express your preference. It asks you, are you for left or are you for right? And by reducing your options, okay, you must be right if you're not left. That's part of gaslighting and mind control, by the way. There's a lot more that I could say about this, but let's move on. Spiritual layer, the spiritual layer of integrity. You can ask yourself, is this ethical? And here you're not going to get a clear answer, but you're going to get at least a perspective change for yourself. Yeah, is this ethical? Because with ethics, we are speaking to a slightly higher sort of perspective in us. I personally prefer to ask, is this the higher or the lower expression? Yeah, because there always are different ways of approaching things. And I don't know about you guys, but I can feel, you know, in me, if it's just sort of la or half-ass or just enough, or if it's the higher expression. Yeah, if it's coming from, let's say, more of a like, okay, let's just do what we need to do just so that other people saw me doing it. Yeah. Or let's do it even when nobody's watching, because I'm holding myself to my higher expression. It's a promise that I gave to my own higher self. Yeah. I'm holding myself, I'm measuring myself by my own standards. So I like that a little better, because it trains, you know, the internalization of values and standards, and also ethics by my own standards. The only time when that doesn't work is when somebody's mentally ill. Because when somebody's mentally ill, for example, antisocial behavior, yeah, psychopathy, they can severely damage or distort that sense. Now, that sense of what is socially acceptable, what is ethically acceptable or integrous, and there is no spiritual sort of instance there that can double check that. Even within religious cults, okay, there's a really, really strong mental bias, and it is one that is based on psychopathy. And as far as the cult leaders are concerned, as far as the cult followers are concerned, it's also psychopathy, but more of a temporary one. Yeah, like mass hypnosis or gaslighting. Yeah, those are the main sort of technologies, propaganda. Okay, to make whole entire societies, or like we are experiencing right now, the whole sort of population on the planet, so believe in something. Yeah. So we got to be careful there, which is why I suggest that if you really want to go, want to approach, integrity from the highest standard of epistemology, all right, you want to ask what is the higher expression, yeah, and then energetically, which also includes the etheric, and this is basically where you guys are trained, is the best question to see if there is an sort of non-integrous stuff going on this layer is to ask, is this balanced? Is this free? Is this based on freedom? Is this expensive? Is it life promoting? Yeah. Is it growth oriented? Yeah. Is it love based? Because those are all higher vibratory resonances that secure integrity. So you're basically asking whether these resonances, these energies that can bring integrity, if they're even present. And this is what it can look like for you. So I've done this workshop, this worksheet here for you, on this level. So whatever the problem is, whatever your problem is, it could be your daily sort of self-reporting form, yeah, then write down the date. If there was a certain topic or a certain subject that you are working on, or that you have a sort of an integrity issue with, then write that down and then break it down. Train yourself to break it down and ask yourself, here it's like in a reduced way. When you do forms, you always have to reduce things, so you have to understand the context. Yeah. So here you write down your problem here, and then you break it down. Okay, physically, is this sustainable? Is there some kind of physical component? Yeah. Is there maybe a component about my diet, water, sleep, or exercise patterns or routines? Yeah. Is there a problem with my nervous system? Am I using substances? Am I addicted to something? Am I drinking too much coffee? Am I drinking too much caffeine? Do I smoke? Do I take drugs? Do I take meds? All that can physically influence my body and my physical integrity. You write it down. You just inform yourself, okay, what you observe that is either integrous or not integrous, and name it, be precise. And then ask yourself, what could I change about this? Could I do something about this? Because, hey, if you're physically cold because it's minus 20 degrees Celsius outside, that might not be in your power to change that, other than, I don't know, putting on more clothes, staying indoors, simple stuff like that. But I'm breaking it down here to the simple stuff because many of you simply fade out the simplest solutions. This is a very, very typical problem with people who are energetically sensitive, or who call them spiritual. You're fading out. You're literally ignoring physical 3D causes. And the reason why this is detrimental is because the only way to fix those is through physical changes. Yeah. If you are suffering from a lack of sleep, or from dehydration, or from a lack of nutrition, you cannot meditate that away, guys, ever, no matter how good you are. You're going to have to sleep at some point. You're going to have to eat something that is nutritious, and you're going to have to drink some water. Okay. And I know that there's a lot of like extremes out there, like sun gazing, and these whatever people thinking it's cool to set records and not sleeping, and these are all physical conditions that lead to sickness, that lead to disease, because they're not sustainable. They simply aren't. Yeah, you might be able to do this for a while, but something's going to have to give. something is going to suffer from it. Okay. Usually it's your emotions and your mind right away, and it creates all kinds of crazy patterns. Yeah. So the easiest way to resolve integrity issues, I'm giving it away for you right here, is to induce a physical shift, change something in the physical. Yeah. That doesn't always mean that the core cause is in the physical, but by changing something, or by shifting something, by changing something in the physical, you have the highest chance of changing things with small actions. Okay. If you go through the layers here into the higher, or less dense areas, so emotional, mental, and physical, they're connected, and all three of them are relatively high density. They're very, very low in vibratory rate, but spiritually, energetically, etherically, that's very high vibratory. Guys, if you don't drink enough water, don't even think about like finding high vibratory solutions, because even if you found them, even if you saw them, you wouldn't be able to do it. Okay, because you simply don't have the overall integrity to do them. Yeah, you understand that logic? Let me hear your thoughts here for a moment, because this is, I think, quite thought-provoking, what I'm saying here. How do you feel about that? If you don't drink enough water, don't even bother learning etheric techniques. Nobody, any kind of like resistance to that statement, or,
Yeah, I have resistance to that statement. I think it's a little harsh. Instead of saying don't even bother, I would
right.
say, well, you can bother, but it's not really going to be as helpful as you want it to be or desire it to be if we don't take care of the foundation first. Yeah.
Yes. Very good, Heather. I like how you responded. Of course, this was a provocative statement. I was just getting a little niggled out here that nobody reacted to it. Okay. So I was basically exaggerating. Yeah. And exaggeration creates dualities. Of course, you should bother. You should bother about all of them. I mean, that's really the main training here. Okay. You should bother with all of them. But a very, very typical problem that people have is that their perception gets so restricted that they are looking for answers in the wrong places. Which means that if you're not drinking enough water, you are lowering your chances drastically, because water is needed to keep everything in flow. This includes your energy. Okay, this includes your ability to feel life force going through you, to be motivated, to have the courage to change, to be wanting to explore, yeah, to dance through life. Okay, and if you don't drink enough water, yeah, what happens to your energy? You are low. You're dragging along. And sorry to tell you, Cindy, yes, coffee has water, but that's your mind tricking you. Soda. Okay, but there's a lot of other stuff in there that takes out water. No, exactly, Julian, we cannot leave our physical behind. And it's more so that, if we, like you just said, Heather, if we start with the physical, yeah, as seeing it as the foundation, yeah, then we can work our way up. And that's how I suggest for you all to work on your own integrity and integration process. You always work your way up. That's why I always shout body at the bottom, heart, mind, spirit, and soul. Okay, because you're gonna have to work your way through these layers. Body, mind and, you know, a body, emotion, and mind are the foundation. And if there is something, you know, that loops, yeah, if there is something that blocks there, okay, all attempts to change something from up there, okay, are no, sure, they are possible, but they are miracles. That's a so-called miracle. Yeah. Yes, Julianne, me too. The last few days, you have been feeling that you need to drink more water. And obviously, you can tell, you know, these things can also fluctuate, and sometimes they have to do with our physical condition. If you go through a lot of emotional stuff, then you also need more water. If you think a lot, if you are sort of caught in your mental loops, okay, you also using up a lot more water. Okay, so this is stuff that most people aren't really aware of. Okay, so everything that you do, whether you sense, you emote, you think, yeah, or you feel, or you express, or you contemplate, or you integrate energetically, all right, requires your metabolic sort of functioning. And when your metabolic functioning, such as in the case that we had earlier with Becky, when you get sick, is compromised, everything else is compromised as well. However, our spiritual and etheric layer of reality can be decoupled from the body and emotion and mind, which is why people have that misunderstanding. But they can be decoupled, but it takes a lot of practice and discipline and training to do that, all right? To still feel spiritually connected, to still love yourself, to still feel motivated, okay? When things are off in your life, when you go through a crisis, or Melly, this is where your question comes in, when you're going through something, yeah, when you're going through fear, you know, like whatever the fear is at this point, all right, to stay calm in your core, to stay to stay integrous in your core, requires an awful lot of conscious energy management. Yeah, it's not hard. You just got to train it. It's just like, you know, martial arts or music. Okay, yeah, if you're a musician, the bomb can, you know, hit the building and you're unaffected. Okay, yeah, if you are a trained energy worker, meaning with yourself, you know, a trained self-healer, and you're going through a heartache or something like I'm going through right now, you know, then you know what is, you know how to discern, you know on which level this needs to be resolved, you understand what you can and can't do, and you do not waste your energy on things you can't change, and you focus on the things that you can change. And that allows you sorry guys, yes, that means I need more water. That allows you to stay in your integrity when you are compromised, when you are challenged. And here, this is a sort of my own statistic. What are these factors that can trigger our integrity? Yeah, what can compromise our integrity? And it's pretty much in the order in which it does that to people. Number one, distraction, lack of focus, not being present, lack of present moment awareness. By far, number one, like way, way up there. Number two, fear. Anything that triggers your fear, including the including uncertainty, including facing something that is unknown, Yeah, something that we've never done before. Change. Yeah, second most common sort of trigger or factor compromising your energy. Number 3, neediness and addiction. Yeah, neediness in a way that we have at some point in our lives somehow given away the power, you know, to meet our own needs. Okay, we expect others, and this expecting others can be an entitlement. It can be exploitativeness. You know, it can be specialness. It can be a lot of things. Yeah, but somehow along the lines, we are expecting others, yeah, or the world to resolve problems for us, to take responsibility, to sort things out for us. That can come with, you know, addictive patterns such as codependency in relationships, such as substance addiction in regards to, you know, substances or drugs. That can come with phone addiction, internet addiction, so behavioral addictions that basically serve the same purpose. All right. We are choosing to pay attention to something outside of us, all right, and assigning the responsibility to resolving our issue to that, whatever it is, your phone, your parents, God, for that matter, anything, all right. It goes hand in hand with externalization and idealization, as we have already discussed, which is most common factor that compromises our integrity. But this one is a particular one where we literally externalize the power to even do anything. Yeah, when it's external, when we believe that we have no say, that you know, say the government or that everything is basically predestined, everything is determined, that I have no free will, okay, that everything is fate or everything is karma. Here a lot of people mix a lot of different concepts together, yeah, that everything is predestined, okay, you know, and reading signs into everything is a form of externalization. Yeah, or waiting for aliens to fix everything. That those are very severe forms of externalization, and they're very, very common. Number 5, the fifth most common reason for, you know, or factor compromising our integrity is projection. For example, specialness. Projection is a psychological and energetic habit. It has to do with how we, you know, try to get our needs met, how we try to get what we want. It's mostly desire-based, solar plexus-based, so second, third, first through third chakra stuff, usually linked to inner child stuff, attachment stuff, and so forth. We need attention, we need validation, we need confirmation, we need reassurance, we need. So it's close to neediness, but it's slightly different, because here we're actively projecting something. Yeah, namely that you should give this to me, or hey, look at me, how special I am. Don't I deserve your attention? I should get all attention. I should get all lollipops that are out there. Yeah, something along those lines. People can also project victimhood. Oh, see how bad I am. See how much I'm suffering. Oh my God, you know, I have it the worst. You know, my suffering is way worse than everybody else's suffering. That's a projection as well. Yeah. Or look at how great our relationship is. Isn't it great? We have the picture perfect family. That's a projection. Or look at me. I did this. This is my work. Yeah. I should get credits for this. Those are all projections, guys. Factor number 6, lack of motivation. Lack of consciousness. Oh, interesting. Why did I put this together? Lack of motivation, lack of consciousness. Because if we had a higher level of consciousness, we would be very motivated. But because our motivation is too low to grow, no, I'm fine where I'm at. Yeah. I don't really care what else is out there. Yeah. All I want to do is maintain everything the way it is. A step up to that is laziness. Yeah. And not really wanting to leave the comfort zone, not to be confused with being afraid of leaving the comfort zone. So there's different aspects of that. Laziness is like, oh, well, if it takes a lot of work, nah, I'm not going to do it. Yeah. I mean, if it's something others volunteer for, they can go ahead and do it. All right. But it's not for me. So this is different here, the laziness and the comfort to a lack of motivation, because lack of motivation comes usually from a lack of education and a lack of seeing things. Yeah. A problem with perception. And then last but not least, and this should be surprising to you guys, I mean, obviously there's more things that can compromise our integrity, but anger, blaming, and judging. Anger really isn't a big problem. It isn't really that non-integrous, all right? It's only when it comes from a place of judgment, when it comes from a place of externalization, when it comes from a place of projection, from a place of neediness, from a place of distracting, just trying to distract from yourself, not wanting to take responsibility. If it comes from a place of righteousness, then anger is a problem. Yeah. Because in that moment, all right, we are not really stepping into our own integrity. Yeah, we're basically refusing integrity. And instead of doing that, we are blowing smoke. We're creating a lot of drama, a lot of anger around that and pointing fingers, and that can be a huge problem. Yeah, it goes hand in hand with externalization and sometimes also neediness, and sometimes also simply a lack of consciousness. I mean, we're just not really looking far enough. Yeah, we're just looking at our own backyard, and we're not looking beyond that. And if we don't look beyond our own sort of scope, well, yeah, then our perception is going to be limited. Now, if we're not looking at, say what certain chemicals do to our water supply, then we're not going to understand how some of the pollution issues in this world, how they actually point back at us individually. Yeah, because you're not going to see that connection between your habits, or the type of cleaners that you use or whatever, and why there's an issue with the fish population in freshwater. All right, you're just not going to see that. So I think you all got the gist here. Okay, the point is that these things all compromise our integrity. And I don't know if you noticed, but stuff like etheric entities weren't on that list. Why do you think that is? Or powers that be, or dark forces? Does anybody know why they're not really? Any of the main factors? The reason why these kind of things are not on there is because they don't cause anything. It's because they can only grip if you are already non-integrous. Yes, that's right, Cindy. Most of them basically turn into these manifestations of darkness. Each of them can turn into entities energetically. Yes, and Julian, you're also correct here. This is a higher spiritual truth. Nothing interferes with our free will. That's true. Darkness cannot interfere with our free will. Darkness can deceive us, can trick us, can gaslight us, can mind control us, but cannot mess with our free will. That's why we can always win if we so choose to. Yes. Yeah, that's why. So you got to understand that these things here, that once your integrity is compromised, that's when all hell breaks loose. Okay? That is what pulls that in. But it starts here with our choices and with our perception. It starts with our integrity with ourselves. It starts with the promise that we're making to ourselves. And it comes with lots of challenges. That's part of our human nature. We have a body that forces us to do things. We have desires, yeah, sex and yummy food and, you know, dopamine. You know, we all want to be high all the time and blissed out. Yeah, that's part of our physical condition. Okay, we have a mind that drives us nuts, critical inner voice that beats us up, and some kind of la kumbaya mind, you know, that pulls us into alternative, idealized, fantasized realities. We all do. You see? Yeah. So listening to your heart, as Julian just is suggesting, is what? That's a gateway. That's a gateway to bypass all that. That's why we train that. It's not necessarily a shortcut because it takes a while, yeah, but it is a way how you bypass all these 3D body, mind, emotion problems and the attachments that come with that, and how to heal those. So what do we need? What are the fundamentals of integrity? We need first the intention, and that usually requires us to even have the awareness. Let me put awareness right next to that, because that is not always there. We need the willingness. I mean, how many people know that you know, there's something wrong with the planet, with pollution? I mean, in the Western world, I think everybody's aware of that, right? Everybody's aware that there's issues with how we treat the planet. Let me call it that way. How many of you are actually living that way? Living in a way that you do not contribute to harming to your best abilities? Not many people. Some countries are better at it than other countries. It's a cultural thing too. Yes. And as part of our human integration process, Julian, what you're saying here in the chat, we go through the maze first, and then we learn the way. That's correct. That's how we learn that. And then we need these things. We need the awareness, the willingness, the courage to go. Yeah. And we need to motivate ourselves. Yeah. It's not enough to have good intention. It's not enough to be willing. It's not even enough to have the courage. We need to motivate ourselves on a daily basis. And we got to pay a lot of attention, because, you know, we now know that the main factor that compromises our integrity is distraction. So we got to pay attention. We got to be in the moment. We got to really be connected with ourselves. Then we need a lot of tenacity and patience. And then we need to work on congruence. We need to up the measuring stick. We need to make sure that things are more aligned, that they're matching up better. Yeah. And lastly, we need to have a vision. We need to be able to see ourselves doing it. We need to have a goal, not just as some idealized, fantasized goal, but something that we can truly envision, yeah, that we can feel within ourselves. And that then can allow us to overcome all of that. This is here sort of the process of integration. So integration is basically the pathway to higher levels of integrity. Yeah, and here you can see basically the same that I just said, slightly different version. First, you're going to have to make the first step. You're going to have to start somewhere. Yeah, this is where most people actually falter. They have good intentions, they have great ideas, all makes sense, but never start. Okay, what happens if you never start? You can't succeed. Okay, right there, you already failed. So for as long as you start, whatever the goal is, you can't accomplish it. So you have to start it. You have to make the first step. Then you have to, you know, actually walk the talk, and that takes a little bit. Then you have to learn, like Julianne said, you walk through the maze, you learn, you observe, you report to yourself what's going on, you know, like you give yourself feedback. Maybe you ask others for feedback. Yeah? And then you keep going and you allow yourself, you know, to things to unfold, because especially if you try new things, you don't know yet what's going to come, and you don't want to be too biased. You don't want to be too restrictive in your viewpoints, because then you are more or less sabotaging yourself and preventing yourself from finding new solutions, finding new ways. So you're going to have to, you know, do trial and error a bit. Review, oh no, I've already tried that one, that didn't work. Okay, so that makes no sense if I do this again. And discerning. Well, you know, that one was kind of okay, but not really. That one was really hard, but it brought really good results. That's discernment, right? You like weighing things. You're making sure that you are congruent. You know what's more important for you. You calibrate this with your own priorities. That's what discerning, reviewing, and allowing allows you to do. Then when you realize that something isn't working, you reset, you restart, you self-correct. And then you keep walking. You keep walking the talk, and you make sure that these things become more and more congruent. Yeah, people talk about ascension and enlightenment. Oh, you know, I mean, I would recommend everybody to really, really, really think this through. What is it that you truly want? I mean, you want ascension? Well, basically, when you ascend, it's when you're dying, right? So, you know, when you completely surrender your physical existence, and you basically, you know, sort of going back to your soul existence. Most people are not really aware of that. Okay, enlightenment. Well, enlightenment, you know, I mean, depending on what literature, what teachings, and so forth you read, means the sudden, you know, sort of, oh my God, I know everything, I can see everything, I can, okay. All right, let's say that happens to you tomorrow. Then what? Yeah, it's important to think those things through and to be a bit more precise. Yeah, with where are you going with stuff? Yeah, what's it truly about? And here you also got to correct your goals sometimes. That's really important to understand. Yeah, there are times where you have to internalize, and that's a big part of integration. That's why, you know, when there's weeks, for example, where maybe there's not a lot happening on the outside, but there's a lot of internal processes going on. They can be very silent. They can almost feel like nothing is going on. Yeah, more like being rather than doing. Okay, that's an important part of integration. Yeah, it's you know, this part here. Yeah, when you allow things, so you allow things to unfold, you allow things to go through you, you allow yourself to feel into it and to really discern. Yeah, allow yourself to correct or to reset if needed. You know, that's a big part of integration. And then you, like I said, with the measuring stick, you make sure it's almost like quality control, you know, make sure that you are actually doing your best. You know? That's something that comes from, that must be answered from within your own conscience. Am I really trying my best? Or am I kidding myself a little bit here? Nobody else can answer that for you because you're the actor and the script writer and the director, and the character of your life story. So you are the one that determines where this goes. You are the one that does the character development. You are the one that determines how it's going to be played. You're the one that determines whom this person actually wants to experience, you know, life as, yeah, what it feels like from within, yeah, and what the highest goal is. That's all in your hands. And then you have to keep going. Here's a visualization of inner integrity. I've used this infographics a few times. It's basically, just in simpler words, you know, splitting up, you know, sort of how we express, and these, you know, how we perceive integrity on these different levels. Yeah, and then it's basically, it basically comes down to very simple things: what you let in and what you put out. And that determines your integrity. And when you go through a challenge, then you have to temporarily focus on reinstating integrity there, wherever it's compromised, right? As if you have a wall around your, or fence around your house, and there's a hole in the fence. All right, what do? Sit there and are desperate and putting all your energy into proving that it was the neighbors, and you know, like go under in desperation that now you have a hole in the fence and it's no longer the way you want it? Or are you going to take what you have, you know, a hammer, a few nails, and a few pieces of wood or whatever, and fix the hole? You reinstate integrity, you know, as you go in real time, because that's what integration is. Here, a quick sort of schematic. It's very abstract, so I don't know if you many of you know these. These are part of the Sacred Suffering workbook, but also here in regards to like really seeing that all this is a circle. Yeah, there is no end point to it, because there, you know, even if you become enlightened, okay, that integration never changes. That keeps going on. Okay, being enlightened don't mean anything really when it comes to living your life, because you still have to live your life. Okay, you still have to eat and drink and sleep and poop and all that. Okay. But what you might find interesting, and that's something I have not shown, I think, in a while, except for it's in a few articles, and it's in the free energy training videos on YouTube, the 21 days. That's where that is from. So it's like super, super old, like 5-6 years old. How this goes when we start change, how it actually integrates, and how long it takes minimally, like minimum, to create permanent changes, to really get things fully integrated under ideal circumstances. Yeah, this is science-based. Yeah, it and these little speech bubbles here, they're just like sort of what it internally feels like. Yeah, when you go through these different processes of integration. Let's say you want to quit drinking alcohol, or quit you want to quit a relationship. Okay, so you start here. This is the moment where you quit. It's you already have the courage, the intention, and the willingness, so you start quitting, and then this is when your journey starts. Yeah, and you know, the first week is rough. Yeah, because whatever it is, temptation, and you're getting pulled back in, and your own mind and your emotion and your body are playing havoc. They're like really getting to you, and you relapse. Part of integration, guys, part of the recovery and healing process. Yeah, and you get back on and try again. All right, and you get into like, I hate this, and this isn't working, and I'm out. Okay, and then you quit again, and then like quit the changing process, right? And you're like, no, I'm done with this. And then let's say you stay on the path, yeah, realizing that this is for a more important purpose, and you keep going with your integration. Okay, you're going to have a lot of clearing symptoms, so stuff is going to come forward that wasn't aware to you. All of a sudden, you're going to see the things that never really worked that well, something that we've discussed here at the beginning of the workshop. It's going to become more clear to you. Yeah, and you're going to like start, okay, I can handle this. I'm okay with this now. Yeah, I'm bit by bit seeing some changes. I'm still relapsing, but I can see how it's making me feel lighter. I can see how it's clearing things up. Yeah, and then roughly like after like a month or so, you can actually start seeing yourself doing this. Like for the first time, you may feel like, okay, this could work. Yeah, this could really work. And then between the first and the second months, you get all excited, accelerated. So many changes have happened within a month or two, and you're like super motivated. Okay. Yeah, you really motivated by your own success now. That's typically, so when you actually go through rehab for alcohol or substances, it's the minimum amount of time, 66 days. Yeah, that in my experience, from an energetic point of view, I would suggest somebody actually does a daily regimen, so goes through rehab, and then after the first 2 months, you still have to go through a daily regimen, but you now have more self-esteem, you have more motivation, you can see it through, you can experience yourself as capable again, yeah, which is really important. So whatever it is that you want to change, if you don't get past the first 2 months, very little chance that this is going to become a permanent change. All right, it isn't really until you get into that sort of rest of the year. Okay, so the next 10 months, you'll still go through cycles, but they're all part of your integration process. Yay, things are really changing, and it's awesome, and you'll feel excited. Oh wow, and I can tackle anything, I can do this, I love it, and you even get to the place where you're like, I don't even know what the problem was, what took me so long. You guys ever experienced that? Yeah. And then all of a sudden, you're like, oh shoot, what the heck? I'm seeing my old patterns coming back. Yeah. I need something that needs to change. And this is roughly like the 1.5 year mark. Yeah, this is usually why relationships go into their first crisis, about 1.5 years, by the way. And this is when you see you have to start over again. So there's a new sort of change cycle starting on a higher level, yeah, on a different layer. That is why this never ends, not because we're not good enough or we're too dumb for change. No, there's a certain cycle, obviously. We have to go through the cycle, and as we are just right as we are through with it, okay, we'll realize that now the next level, the next layer is showing. Yeah, that's normal. All right, so this concludes the workshop, Integrity and Integration. Just wanted to make a quick announcement here. There is currently a site-wide 25% discount. That means on anything, yeah, any products, any services, any programs that I have, which I would strongly recommend to those of you who may have been thinking about something, especially if it's more expensive, because with 25%, you know, that can sort of cut off a significant chunk. Like I'm thinking about like anything that is like sort of a 12 months, like a flat rate or something, you know, something that you want to do for a whole entire year, because that could make a really big difference. Like, for example, for the Sacred Self-Healing package, for the whole package, instead of $400, you know, makes it $300, and you're done, you're through with it. You're never ever gonna, you know, have to pay for any steps. Also, here, just as a reminder, the next energy course that actually specifically deals with integrity, yeah, this 6-week new interactive course. Let me see. We have actually, we have a bunch of people who are doing the energy course right now. Anyone here who would love to share for just in one sentence or two what is coming forward for you in this energy course? Does anybody want to share who's in the energy course right now?
Hey, I will.
Hi, Cindy.
Hi. It is an incredible deep dive. Really, really, really impactful. You know, I've been doing this for a long time, and I'm still uncovering blind spots and things that I didn't know about myself.
Yeah, Julianne is chiming in here, a deeper sense of self-awareness. Now, Cindy, let me ask you, is this anything complicated? Is this anything harder than the Sacred Self-Healing course, or harder than doing, you know, I don't know, you know, energy coaching or whatever?
No, the coolest thing about this is that we can reflect on our own in our own time, in our own space. Sometimes, like with coaching, I don't have the right answer if I haven't, you know, contemplated, where I can just let this sort of evolve through me. And it's broken down so easy and simple that you just see things just like this one of the charts that you put up that you're using in there is brilliant, so brilliant. It just breaks
This one here?
everything down. No, not that one, the one that
Oh,
has
the worksheet? The worksheet.
yes,
That
yeah,
one with how to ask for
yes,
things. Yeah, so it breaks
really
it
good.
down. It breaks it down. There's a system to it, and that system allows us to, even though it's not new. Yeah, I mean, many of you guys have been working with me or the Sacred Self-Healing content, yeah, and transmissions and all this for years. It's nothing new. It's just the systematic way of doing it, and also, Cindy, what will you say? The accountability. The self-accountability. There was a, when you do online courses, right? So this is a combination of an online course, live transmissions, and webinar coaching. Yeah, but it's in that combination that you have to be accountable with yourself. You notice that?
It works really, really well. And the
That's
3
cool.
hours of straight transmissions is just a dream come true.
Yeah, you just gave a little secret away.
Ooh, sorry.
No. Obviously, it's not a secret. Yeah. So that's why I brought in the aspect of accountability, because you need to allocate that time. It's one time a week. And then the online course part is reading at your own convenience. You know, that's like whenever you have time on your phone. I'm not a big fan of reading on my phone, to be honest. I think it's much easier for us to read things on a screen, especially if there's graphics and stuff in there. But you can. Okay, so it's portable. It's an online course, and you can do this at any time. But once a week, we sit together and we do this 3 Saturday, 6 Saturdays in a row, and it's really, really cool. Yeah, thank you, Cindy. I love it too. I wish it was there like 20 years ago. You know, I'm literally producing all programs and stuff that I would have loved for my own journey.
It's wonderful, and I thank you personally.
Thank you. Yeah, so this is it. Maybe you want to take advantage of that 25%. Just saying thank you, everybody, for watching, for participating. It's always a pleasure. And yeah, I love it. Take advantage of you know, these workshops, because they just simply come with you having done the steps. All right. And even if you can't come live here, watch the videos, you know, and you know, watch the slides. I always give the slides in the email. Yeah, thank you guys. Have a wonderful rest of the night. Okay, see you soon. I'm wishing you a wonderful October. The next one is going to be our current energies discussion, the forecast for, can you believe it, November. All right, see you soon. Bye.